If it
Okay.
works.
I clicked start streaming and I clicked start recording.
Nice, and I can see that the stream started for me as well. So in the future, we can both log in like this
Okay,
and
great.
both be able to see the stream.
You can post your link.
Yes, I will take care of that while you say
Oh,
things.
welcome everyone. Um,
Um,
we were having some technical difficulties. So if anything is stupid or bad, everyone should let us know.
yes. But I think we should sound fine, and I've posted the link. And yeah, I'm not recording from where I usually record, and there will probably be noise during the recording, but
Some
you
partying in the
know,
background.
that may happen, yes.
Okay.
But we shall soldier on.
All right. We can watch the speed draw if I did this right. Whoa, I'm so smart. I learned OBS in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, nailing it.
Here's Taylor, and it's implied that Tattletail is also sitting on the couch next to her now. Look at
Implied tattletales.
yeah, you can tell her vibes are just there. And Taylor is watching in horror as her dad and and Brian interact.
I'm putting a starting stream message in the chat, and hopefully people can see this
Yeah,
somewhere.
someone will see it. Hey,
Oh, there we go.
Vale.
Cool. Well, yeah, Brian's so happy.
He's just chit-chatting, okay? He's having a great time. Um, I don't have much to say about this drawing. I did it very quickly this morning. So I'm actually kind of proud of how much quicker I've been getting at doing the drawings. Vale said, nope, can't find the stream. What does that mean?
Hmm.
Hmm, concerning.
Can you maybe just a joke? I
Vale, don't
was
stress us
concerned that
out, okay? We're having problems.
yeah. Well, Greg's here too, though, so that's good.
Greg can
Um,
confirm things are working.
cool, cool,
Um,
cool.
okay. So, if you want to get started with talking about the themes, obviously these chapters aren't really going to have a lot of crossover theme-wise. Normally we don't do the normally we don't do the interludes.
With the Taylor
Yeah,
chapters.
with the Taylor chapters. So it's going to be a little quirky today.
Yep, yep. I can't remember how we decided this, but like, I don't know, it's just made sense to me every time I thought about it. So,
Yeah, I think it was just that we had more to say about the Caden chapter than we did about the Brutish chapter. So trying to
mhm.
figure that out time-wise. Okay,
Yeah.
Vale was just joking. It means I'm a wise ass. Um, good. Vale, you made me anxious. Now I'm thrown off.
Well, the audience participation question reminder is for new readers. We're taking a temp check. This is if M shows up. Temp check on the numeric percentage that Taylor and Brian will hook up.
Yeah.
And then, oh damn, I thought of another question that was supposed to be here, but didn't actually write it down.
Oh my
What a
God.
disaster. So,
When you
well,
oh, I
mhm,
guess we'll talk about it at the end. We'll talk about the listener participation.
mhm, mhm. Well, we can probably think about themes. I couldn't think of really any.
Well, the big theme is that feel you're when worlds collide. Like Taylor is so uncomfortable in this chapter, but I feel like she doesn't even feel it to its fullest extent because of her injury. Um I don't know if that counts as a theme, like the fact that she's going to be a little loopy. She's most loopy in this chapter, which you can definitely tell with like some of the flavor text, which I thought was fun. I was like, I wish we got to hang out with this Taylor the whole book.
Yeah, she's all over the place.
She's like way funnier than normal Taylor and like not on purpose.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
Yeah, so I guess like having like an alternate state of mind is kind of a theme for Taylor. She doesn't seem that upset about it here, but like throughout the book, she's very anti-drug, anti-alcohol. She doesn't like it when she doesn't like have like full control over her typical self.
yeah, she starts getting worried sometimes when she uh, gets head injuries. She's like, I can't have another concussion. Like, I remember her thinking stuff like that later in the book.
Yeah. Vale says this chapter
Um,
is all about family. She is in a complete helpless childlike state, carried, swallowed, cared for. Yeah, uh, some of it, I feel like there's something to be said. Like she feels very childlike in comparison to Gru in this chapter. Like he swaddles her, he carries her around, he pushes her hair back, and she talks about it like, oh, this is just like when I was a kid. It's a little, I don't know. Do you have anything to say about that?
I think I know what you're saying. Yeah,
It comes off a little bit daddy issues in this chapter particularly.
yeah, that might be correct.
But we'll get into that, okay? Because
Yeah,
there's a couple
well,
things.
we'll consider it in
Okay.
our minds.
Are you good with me starting the overview? We'll just talk about themes as they come.
Yeah. We'll do that.
Okay.
Um,
So, Taylor is awoken by a couple unnamed voices, but she's so cozy. She doesn't want to open her eyes or anything. And then Brian calls her kiddo, which I thought was really funny. So, like, getting right into it. Last chapter, he said, okay, this was a few chapters ago, but he did say good girl. Oh, Vale said, please don't say this is good girl foreshadowing good boy interlude. We have already covered that. Okay, well, it comes up again because he calls her kiddo this chapter. Um, and Brian expresses some worry that Taylor wasn't going to wake up, and an unfamiliar old man begins questioning Lisa's ability. Oof, a bad move. um, to know that Taylor doesn't have a serious brain injury, and Lisa very snarkily lets him know that the only way she could be wrong is if his equipment is faulty. And she says, I need correct information to work with, or I get false info. This is like a good, like a good learning that we get about Lisa. Like she can really get, I don't know, like railroaded. She can just get on a completely wrong course if she gets bad info and just assumes that it's fine.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's new info to the readers, and it's important to like factor in going forward when you're like, is this really like right when she's getting like big leaps?
Yeah, it's a little interesting too because it seems to almost only apply to like non-human things. Like if somebody lies to her, she's not going to be tricked the same way as if equipment is incorrect, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Vale says there are many little details like that this chapter. Taylor's surprised that the bugs are still trying to do what she asked, even unconscious. Yeah, that's true. So Taylor tries to open her eyes, but they're too dry. She can't see very well. That really grossed me out for some reason. Like trying to open my eyes and my eyelids are like stuck to them.
That
Um,
definitely has happened to me.
Oh my God. She feels something against her cheek. And she's like, I should brush that away, but she's real weak and lazy right now. Um, okay, again, Brian pushes Taylor's hair from her face and she feels comforted. And she even mentions, she's like, I feel like a little kid right now. But she really is enjoying it. So. I don't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe Taylor's just a little, and it only happens when she's concussed.
Oh my God. No, she just needs affection, and she is also has suffered brain damage from an explosion.
Yeah, I know. It was just really heavy-handed this chapter.
I, you're not wrong.
Vale says, I hate to say this, but as you get older, dry eyes is super common. It's also super easy to fix with drops. No, I refuse. I will not take eye drops.
Yeah, I don't like eye drops. It's
Yeah.
like it's on there for ages. Like it kind of like it's on the outside always. I can never like just get it into the eye properly.
Um, I have like big issues with like other people like touching my eyes. And one time I was at the eye doctor and he was trying to put eye drops in my eyes and I was like it's so like visceral. I can't control it. So I'm like crawling up the chair like trying to get away. And
Right.
he was like um as a comment to the makeup I was wearing, he said, "How come you can put all that shit on your eyes, but you can't do this?" I think about that all the time. I was so offended. I was like 15. Phil
Oh
said,
my God.
Phil says I went to a specialist for eye problems. The doctor definitely thought I was an idiot when she told me to get eye drops. For me, it's needles. I have to have my arm strapped down to give blood. Yeah, Dale gets it.
I think I get it as well.
Yeah.
I there's just certain stuff where I can't sit still.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not it's just different, okay? I can put mascara on. That's different than some old man putting water in my eyes.
Yeah.
Um, so in the background of this cute little scene between Brian and Taylor, Lisa and the old man are arguing, and Lisa angrily goes over Taylor's injuries, most notably a concussion and quote unquote whatever fucked with her nervous system. Um, Lisa says if she actually did mess up, then she would own up to it, as long as it wasn't his faulty equipment. But I trust Lisa here, right?
I mean, I do,
I
but
wasn't
it's
I wasn't worried at the time that Lisa would be wrong and Taylor was gonna die, 'cause we're at the beginning of the book.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, I mean, I feel like I trusted Tattletail faster than some readers, but I think it's pretty common for people to just be like, "Yep, Tattletail's the best," and then just be on board with whatever most of the time,
Yeah,
even when she does mess up. So
I feel like in We've Got Worm, they were like way more tentative about Tattletail, and I was like, what is this? Why don't you trust her? She hasn't done anything wrong.
yeah,
Um,
and I was just like there for it. I'm like, Tattletail, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Taylor finally opens her eyes and she's greeted with her parents, Brian and Lisa's faces. Um, but she's feeling something on her face again, and it turns out that Taylor's been using her power in her sleep slash coma. I feel like she can't use her power in her sleep. It has to be like a knockout kind of thing. Um, as far as I can tell. So they have been very slowly surrounded by bugs, despite the gang taping up the windows and doors. Um, and
M.
they never talk
M's
about
here.
how many bugs are there. Oh, hi, Em.
Hooray!
I imagined it was quite a few. There's just like kind of a pile of cockroaches leading up to the bed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely. That's why one of the alt interpretations, like of what the art would have been the like bug-filled room.
Yeah, definitely. Um, the old man who is like clearly the doctor complains that he needs a sterile work environment, probably not full of just thousands and thousands of bugs. But Taylor begins to start drifting off again because she's like been on painkillers and stuff and also is concussed. But Lisa stresses that she needs to send off the bugs first. Do you want to read this section?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I dimly recalled telling my bugs to come to me not long before I passed out. I guess I hadn't ever told them to stop. I guess blacking out had prevented me. I sent an instruction, then told her. It is done. Something caught my attention. Interesting music. Music? Lisa momentarily looked very concerned. She looked at Brian.
I wonder like what leaped into Lisa's head right there. She's like, "Oh no, I was wrong. Terrible brain injury, hallucination."
Yeah,
Um, is
that's
Taylor?
kind of what I had assumed.
Yeah, she's like, "Shit." But Taylor starts rambling like really sillily about some music that's playing outside. She has a great line about saying she she can't tell the difference between Japanese and Chinese, and is that racist? Yes, it is. Um, Lisa asks how she can tell there's music playing outside, and Taylor says that there was a moth on the door listening. But she does manage to send her bugs off before going back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned that this is like the first major, just like two completely different scene chapter. Like a,
Yeah, there's a couple interludes that have like kind of broken up things, or like the characters travel during the thing. But this one has a full-on page break, and then in addition to that, um, it's a Taylor chapter. So like it's kind of different than the interludes that need to get everything done all at once.
yeah. Vale says Lisa's so worried about music. She hates music. Can we try to find the Latino slash Asian slash fusion music? I did a quick check and couldn't find anything. It might be fun to track something like that down. I think that Taylor is being a bit delusional right here. Maybe it's like she was just like way off and it was like Indian or something.
Well, I just imagine that like whatever she's hearing, because she's just saying different things like left and right,
Yeah.
that it's just kind of like she can't hear well through the moth, like on top of the fact that she's concussed. It's
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but
Um,
I Em is right, full of filthy insects. Yeah.
Taylor comes to more arguing, and Lisa is nagging Brian. Throughout, I didn't mention this, but throughout this, like rarely mentions people's names. She like doesn't have a very good grasp of who is who to her, like at any given moment. But we know that Lisa is nagging that Brian's gonna drop her on her head and she'll kill him. Lisa asks if Taylor is waking up, and Taylor shakes her head. Which, Vale, I hope that's on your list of jokes that Taylor makes because that was a good one. Um,
I love that moment actually, where it's like, "Are you awake?" And she's like,
she's like,
"No."
no. Lisa does a quirky little knock on the door. I do that knock too, but I feel cringe about it. And I'd never, before I read this, I'd never seen the name. What do they call it? It's like 2 cents a shave or something like that.
Shaving a haircut 2 bits is the like
Uh,
name of the
uh,
little
uh,
musical thing.
Yeah, I didn't know it was called that, but when I read it, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's what
was
that
it
is.
a stressed out Danny answers the door and apparently assumes Taylor is dead for a brief moment. He's like, "Oh, is she?" And they're like, "No, she's just sleeping."
We
um,
just brought her body here.
I just can't, like, why would he think that they brought her dead body to his door? And then we learn in a minute that they had called him previously. It's not like they showed up unannounced carrying his unconscious daughter. Like, they were like, hey, there was a thing, and Taylor is sick, but we'll bring her home. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah, Lisa's like, no, it's okay, she's just sleeping. Brian introduces himself and Lisa gives some instructions on Taylor's care as they all head inside to the sofa bed. Someone tucks Taylor in. Is it her dad? Is it Brian? We'll never know. I feel like it's Brian,
yeah, it's probably definitely Brian.
but gross. Um, so Danny invites them into the kitchen where they'll be quieter, but if Taylor wakes up, she'll be able to see them. Um, they think that she's asleep because she's pretending to be asleep. Um, Danny offers them some beverages. Do you want to read this excerpt?
Yes. Coffee, please, Brian replied. Long night. Would it be okay if I ask for tea when you're already busy with coffee, Mr. Hebert? After all you've done, making tea is the least I can do. But please, call me Danny. If I'd been comfortable in a morphine-induced haze before, I was very, very aware the moment I heard the name and realized these voices and names I recognized had no business being together. Dad, Lisa, and Brian, at my kitchen table. I kept my eyes half shut and hung on to every word.
Yeah, this would totally be like mortifying. Even I was gonna say like as a teenager, but probably in real life as well. Even if they like weren't super villains, you know, if these were just her friends.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's a little rough. And also we get to see the start of Lisa really hamming it up to Danny. She's like, "Oh, is it too much trouble?" Shut up, Lisa. Do you
she's
think
like,
do you
she's
think
like,
she's like
Daddy.
has a purpose and like how much like how hard she's going?
I think she's trying to sell the ruse to Danny and ingratiate herself to him.
Yeah.
You know, you, you
I was
know.
just reading the chat. Vale said, posted the shave and a haircut wiki. I was curious and it exists, so share it on Discord. Mildly interesting. M says, if I was Danny, I would offer these children a cognac.
Oh my word,
Oh
M.
my god.
That would be a crim.
If you were Danny, you wouldn't do that because he didn't, okay? Yeah.
Oh.
Roasted. Um, so Lisa reiterates that, like she said on the phone, Taylor is fine aside from the concussion. Um, so Lisa starts lying, shocker, and tells Danny that her dad is a doctor and even pulled some strings to get her scanned up. She got like a MRI and stuff. And then she gives Danny some codeine, which is just funny, with along with some instructions on like how to give them to her and stuff. Danny asks how much, and Lisa begins to describe the medication instructions again, and then he cuts in to clarify how much does he owe for the treatment that, you know, his kid got. You can read this.
Yeah. I could picture Lisa taking hold of his hand, stopping him. She's a friend, Danny. My papa would never even hear of having you pay.
Like, she's just going. I can't handle it. The fact that she called her dad Papa, like, she's not being very subtle.
Mhm, mhm.
And I wish he would stop. But Danny is, I guess he's just like, oh, and he thanks them. But Lisa and Brian say that they actually feel guilty for quote unquote letting it happen and not calling him sooner. So, Lisa lets him know that Rachel's been scratched up, but she's super tough, and she's been, like teasing Alec for fainting. And she does this like fake. Okay, I'm just assuming it's fake. I don't mean to act like everything Tattletail does is fake, but she pretends to catch herself before saying an F-bomb.
Yeah,
And I
it
just don't
feels
feel
fake.
like it feels super fake. Like she's trying to be like, I'm just a normal teenager. Don't worry. I'm not a supervillain. Um, so Danny asks about her, like if her and Brian are okay. If you want to read this.
I will in a second, but to address the chat, M says, I can't hear Papa not in a British accent.
Yeah.
And then Vale says,
Papa.
hello, fellow teenagers.
True.
A little worse for wear, but you could tell just by looking at us, obviously. Scrapes, bumps, bruises. I got burned, just a bit. No worse than a bad sunburn. Not around your eyes, I see. Lisa laughed, so naturally you'd never think twice about it. Yeah, I was wearing sunglasses when it happened. It's that noticeable?
Back off, Danny. I just like, if I was in that situation, I would not have commented that her eyes were not sunburned. So I wonder like how distinct it is, you know what I mean? Just like a perfect mask shaped mask
Yeah.
shaped burn. Um, so this is like we're coming to the realization that Danny knows about the bombs because they are actually on the news. Bakida has been sending explosions across the city all night and morning. So now we know it is morning time. I don't know if anyone mentioned that.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't think we've talked about it up to this point, but it's weird to reframe this because I always had thought of this as like a nighttime scene,
Yeah,
but
I'm
yeah.
assuming it's like real early morning, maybe like 5 or 6 a.m.
Mm-mm. Yeah, maybe the sun hath not come up.
Yeah, you get to read
Mhm.
this excerpt here.
Yes,
You just
yes.
have better
So,
Taylor voice than I do. Well, I guess
okay.
this is Tattletail here.
Okay, this is Tattletail. Oh, I'm receiving a delivery. Thank you. I now have a croissant and a coffee. Um, so, uh, okay, yeah, it's Tattletale and Akita, right? Yeah, pretty sure that's it. We were cutting through the docks on our way back from Lord Street Market, and I guess we were in the wrong place at the wrong time. 1 second, everything is normal, then disaster. Brian was carrying Taylor's bags while she retied her shoes, so she was a bit behind the rest of us when it happened. Brian and I stood up after the explosion, and Alec, Rachel, and Taylor didn't. Taylor was the scariest to see lying there because you could see the blood right away.
Um, so Taylor feels real guilty when she sneaks a glance at her dad, who is like visibly upset. Danny tentatively asks why they cut through the docks in the first place, and Lisa's like, well, I wouldn't normally do something so risky, but look at Brian. He's so yoked. Um, Brian and
That's the
Danny,
exact sentence, even.
that's
I'm
actually
glad that you.
verbatim.
Yeah.
But Brian and Danny laugh together, which freaks out Taylor a little
Oh,
bit. Too much, too much dad overlap right here.
yeah.
Um, Bill said, I feel like I lost some of the plot. Vale said, I'm so curious about the dog art, by the way. I should just sit patiently and wait, but I've been thinking about it since the initial post. M says it's at least 5 levels a different color from the rest of her face. Yeah. Plot hole. She has no toes. Her bombs are unusable. It's a fake comment reflecting theme of some terrible posts I've seen on Reddit and Goodreads. Yeah, I feel that. Like I always read stuff and it's like plot hole, and I'm like, just because they didn't explain something doesn't mean it's a plot hole.
Yeah. And I mean, there's also a lot of stuff where people will say it's a plot hole and it's literally explained in the plot, just like later.
Or I feel like there's like actual plot holes, like it's not even plot holes, it's just like Wildbow didn't have like a good understanding of something because he's not like an expert on the sewer system, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Which like is stressful for people who are and do have more knowledge about that, but for everyone else it's whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some like things throughout that are kind of like, oh, ooh, that's not how that works. But
Yeah.
the world feels real.
Vale says, there's a funny thing about lying. When someone lies, they tend to tell a lot of non-relevant, unimportant details. It's so well written snippet here. Look at Brian, he's swole. Too much dad or action. I'm not a fan of that.
Oh no.
Brian's not her dad, but like this chapter he is. Um,
I know you're pulling your own text around.
I know. Um, Danny admits that when he originally got the call from Lisa, he thought this was a prank. Um, or he seemingly thinks that either the call was a prank or like they were covering up some prank that they had done to her, like
Mhm.
like
Right.
physically assaulted her or whatever. Um, and Danny is a bit surprised to find that Lisa and Brian actually know about the boys and even about the January event.
Yeah, yeah. Taylor has not revealed how close he is with them, which emotionally is closer than he is, or that she is to Danny.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, which is obviously going to be a bit upsetting to Danny, but you know,
it is what it is.
you want to read this next excerpt?
Yes, yes. I see. I'm glad she found someone to talk to about it. Sympathetically, Lisa answered, but you're disappointed that someone wasn't you? If guilt caused you physical pain, I think that would have been like a shiv through my heart. My dad inexplicably laughed. Well, aren't you eerily on target? Taylor did say you were smart. She did she? That's nice to hear. What else did she say? My dad laughed again.
Um, just thought it was kind of cute that Danny's kind of in a good mood. I don't think he's in an actual good mood, but I think he's like honestly relieved to meet Lisa and
Mhm.
Brian and see like people who really care about her and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And probably he was more skeptical until like this moment.
Yeah. Um, and then he had also apparently done some anxious baking. Like they called and they were like, "Oh, Taylor's he got bombed," and then he started baking some cookies. So
I just imagine him like in a slightly cartoonish, like maybe 1.1 or 1.25 times speed, like going through the motions of baking, but being really stressed out and having like an anxious look on his face the whole time.
Oh
Yeah.
no, Vale said Danny laughed again. From this, Tattletail learned his phone password and what he likes for dinner on weekends. Shut up. That's a
Oh boy.
good one, Vale. Um, Lisa comes to talk to the pretend to be sleeping Taylor as Brian and Danny are continue to chit chat in the kitchen. Lisa checks that their lie about Taylor's injury was good enough for her. But Taylor somewhat harshly says that she does not want them here. Yeah,
Oh.
it's pretty savage. And her no filter seems like is obviously an effect of her concussion, which Lisa will mention in a minute. So she does immediately apologize and start rambling. Lisa romantically cuts her off. I say it's romantic because she does the finger on the lips move, which
Mhm.
I've never had done to me before. I think it would be more upsetting than anything.
Yeah. Oh, I need to close the door. A cat poked their head in.
Okay. Finger on the lips is insane. Yeah, but Tattletail is insane.
I mean, she's just really going for it. She's also saying, Papa,
Vale says
whatever.
a finger on the lips is more a bro thing. When the homies won't stop apologizing. uh,
I definitely, okay. So David has definitely done the finger on the lips as a joking thing. So,
yeah, just bros being bros.
yeah.
Um, so Lisa goes in and explains the symptoms of her concussion to her. If you want to read the excerpt.
Yes, yes. You're probably going to be a little wobbly for a few days. Your brutal honesty just now was probably the concussion at work. It's going to influence your mood, maybe loosen your inhibitions, as if you were a bit drunk. Your memory might be a little unreliable. You might be more disorganized, or you might have extreme mood swings, like crying jags. You might have a harder time reading social cues. You work on getting through all that. We'll shrug it off if you say something you normally wouldn't. Just try not to let anything private slip around your dad, so nothing slips. Uh, all of this should pass before too long.
Brian comes and joins them on the sofa bed, and she compliments Taylor's dad and says that he reminds him of her. Um, which, like, whatever, that's fine. I just wrote Brian has a crush on Danny, but we have no evidence that Brian has a crush on Taylor, so
Yeah.
none at all.
Zero evidence has been found
Yeah.
thus far.
Um, Lisa explains what went wrong, starting with Taylor when Taylor was hugging Brian like an idiot, and everyone just kind of assumed that someone else had been watching Bakita, and then Bakita grenade launched Taylor. So Taylor was luckily saved from burns by her awesome costume. And I don't know, is that like legitimate? Like, does spider silk is it fire resistant?
I've heard that like contrary to video game beliefs, cobwebs are like fire resistant. I don't know if it's true, but I have heard that.
Someone said. It might have been
And
Taylor though.
well, I'm getting a yes from Vale.
Oh, okay. Or maybe Vale is saying yes to Brian is crushing on Danny to get to Taylor.
Spider silk is protein based. It does not burn. It melts.
Okay. Um, at least it didn't melt onto her skin.
Yeah, Vale says I asked the same thing.
That was rough. Okay. So Lisa and oh yeah, the horrible pain that Taylor was feeling was the grenade's effect on her nervous system. So it wasn't like, it wasn't like it exploded and that was like the pain that was like a
Mhm.
thousand breaking windows or whatever she said. Um,
Right.
it just got right to the source. So hopefully that's why like she's not super super injured. Um, Lisa and Brian didn't get nearly as hard, but they were still incapacitated, and then they got glue bombed. Um, then Taylor stabbed Fakida in the foot and cut off 2.5 toes, plus her magic toe ring. So it was pretty good luck that she got. But I guess if she hit,
It's a 1 in 4 chance when you're hitting
yeah,
that much.
yeah. Well, it was just good because I mean, if she'd done that, and and not gotten the magic toe ring, then they might have all gotten blown up. But
It's
um,
true.
so Taylor, as she was going unconscious, she pushes the knife towards Gru. She's so proactive. She's
Yeah.
like passing out, and she's like, okay, bugs, come to me, and then she like pushes the knife to Gru, and then she loses consciousness.
Yeah.
Um, and so he was able to cut them all free, and Bakita escaped. Lisa
Mhm.
was sent to a discreet doctor by the boss, and he took care of the gang. Brian was able to retrieve Rachel along with almost all the money. So it seems like a little was skimmed off the top, but they
Probably
gave,
by Uber and Leeds dudes.
yeah, just some like schmucks, and they have already been reimbursed by the boss for the bank robbery. So money is good, and they have like double now or whatever.
Yep. Also, is it now or is it later when they get? I'm forgetting when they got set up with their like bank accounts. That I think it's later because
They did not mention it yet.
okay, yeah, okay, cool. Um, and then let's see. Years ago, when I finished Worm, I was inordinately bothered by the idea that in Fight One versus Long, the fireball didn't cause her spider silk costume to flash burn. I asked on Reddit, got links. And then M said, "Bugs come, knife go."
She's just so organized.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
yeah, I just wanted to mention again the I love the flavor text in Concussed Taylor's chapters. She's just so much funnier. So I pulled this quote. Lisa fished inside her jacket pocket, then handed me a newspaper clipping, except it was torn, not clipped. Newspaper ripping? Across the top in big bold letters was the word escaped. She's like, huh. I think it's still called a newspaper clipping, you dumbass. She's taking
yeah,
things a little literally.
yeah.
Um,
Taylor rules.
yeah, Taylor rules, but only when she's been like when she's more relaxed than usual.
Yeah, Taylor
Um,
should meet Blasto.
oh my God. Taylor unfortunately can't read it. And so Lisa TLDRs her. So bombs are going off all over the city. 20 people have already been confirmed dead, and there's probably more. Taylor is pretty upset when she remembers the image of Park dying in front of her, while she did nothing, like a coward. This is gonna be like one of the first instances of Taylor feeling guilty for her inaction instead of her action.
Yeah, I was gonna say too about this section. Doesn't Tattletail mention there were a bunch of people who were killed by uh, what you call it? Yeah, she says not counting the 4 people she blew up when she was holding us at gunpoint.
Hmm.
So she didn't just blow up Park; she blew up 3 other people. Like she
Yeah,
killed 3 more guys with her like random bomb fire.
yeah. She's just Pocket is kind of a bitch.
Yeah. What a
But
jerk.
what a jerk. So I don't know, but that'll come up a lot. Taylor being like really upset when she doesn't do anything either intentionally or unintentionally. But this was all apparently distraction for Oni Lee to rescue Lung from parahuman prison, and Baki is still going on a rampage. But Lisa says she's in a manic phase and they'll stop in a few hours.
Mhm.
But now that Lung is back, the ABB is probably gonna capitalize on the situation. So they didn't really make things any better.
It was
um,
all a waste.
yeah. So Danny comes in with a tray of cookies and bagels. And Lisa lets him know that uh, Taylor should be bedridden until next Saturday. Do you know what day it's supposed to be today?
Yeah, this should be Saturday morning.
Oh, okay. So she'll have a whole week off.
Mhm.
And Taylor's all upset because she's skipped so much school already, but Danny doesn't know about that, so she doesn't say anything out loud.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Taylor decides that her buddies can stay a while now that the damage has already been done.
Mhm. Mhm.
And she sits between Lisa and Brian as they watch a movie on TV. Taylor half sleeps and realizes that she's leaning on Brian, but she's like, he doesn't seem to mind.
Yeah,
Just kind of stays there.
she's
I
just going for it.
Yeah, she's just a lot more I don't know. Taylor just seems a lot more genuine at the moment
Mhm.
to me. But you can read this quote I pulled.
Mhm. Mhm. I saw my dad pottering about in the kitchen, probably to keep an eye on me, and our eyes met. I gave a little wave, not moving my arm, just my hand, and smiled. The smile he gave me in return was maybe the first truly genuine one I'd seen on his face in a long time. The school thing? I'd worry about it later, if it meant I could live in the present like this.
Taylor, how's your master plan going of betraying all your friends?
Yeah.
Sending them to prison. Um, I think she kind of has forgotten about that at this moment.
Yeah, that's just yeah. But also, I love your "When Worlds Collide."
When worlds collide. Um, what does Vale say? Oh, M says, the fact Taylor still cares about school is so funny to me. She's trying to be good, okay?
I want to remind M, just to be clear, that her fight against Lung was on Sunday, so it is the Saturday morning, not even 7 full days later after she fought Lung.
Yeah, she's fucking crazy. Just like way too fast paced for me, okay? I can do like one a month, maybe. One thing a month.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, she missed a week of school. Like a little bit more than a week of school. But she's gonna miss more. So, do you have any final thoughts on that before we go on to the
I thought as far as like a denouement chapter on this arc, it was really good. Like it was hectic for a long time, but this chapter is basically like the length of two of those action chapters, and like
Yeah,
we get a lot of character stuff. It's all very calm. We get funny Taylor stuff, and then
it's so
like
cute.
yeah, I don't know. I think it's a really good chapter, and we like I think it's good, like really low key seating stuff, like the sound through the mouth thing, and we just get a lot of little morsels, a lot of nuggets,
Yeah.
and
Vale,
we get
sa-
to make fun of Taylor.
Vale says this is step 11 in the master plan. Step 14, travel to theme park with friends. Step 22, group dinner in the park. It's a great plan. Oh my
Greg
god.
says, "To be fair, fighting a dragon man and robbing a bank, I'd consider my week full. Just pencil those over the whole week on the calendar."
It would take more than a week for me to get those done, to be honest. Just the mental prep time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you gotta be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, do you want to do the I want to hear well everyone, but Emily's answer on how likely she thinks that
Mhm.
um that
Yeah.
Brian and Taylor are gonna get
Yeah.
together sometime point in the book.
I'm
I think
gonna
this is good.
read the exact thing that you said
Okay.
because it's funny to hold you to your words
Oh
sometimes.
no.
Temp check, numeric percentage that Taylor and Brian will hook up.
What does temp check mean? Okay.
I don't know. That was on there.
I don't know. I don't know what I mean. But how were you feeling like right around here when you first read it?
Okay, so M says, I think hope to God that it is incredibly likely.
That's not a numerical number. Numerical number, yeah.
You're gonna have to provide a numerical
I
number,
want a
okay?
percentage likeliness. Let's bet on it. How about that?
Oh my
Oh
God.
my god.
Yeah, we have to take the bet. Um, 86 degrees. Okay.
Whoa, Sigma. It's pretty low.
Oh my God.
Oh my
Um,
god.
so when I was at this point in the book, okay, I thought I thought for sure they were gonna get together at this point, like after this, because I mean, of course it could have, it could go either way, but like at the time, like with I don't know, I think this the couch scene where where she's leaning against him, it
Yeah.
just felt like it just I was just like, this is how books go.
Yeah. Exactly. I agree. I think I was like 100%. Like, I can't wait for them to get together. But then I was like preemptively stressing about when they would inevitably like fight or break up. So,
Yeah, I kind of thought it would be that, like they get together really soon and then they'd be broken up.
yeah, and then there would be problems, but all right.
Mhm.
Well, we can move on to this great
Chapter,
interlude chapter.
yeah, 4.x, the real one,
Let's see if I can
rather than
do
the fake one.
the Curtis voice. Brutus, get the fuck out of here. Um, so this chapter is from the point of view of Brutus the dog. Um, M
And
says the
says it's the best
best.
chapter.
Okay, we'll see. Um, so Brutus is summoned by Rachel to go on a walk. And he's really mean to Angelica. Like actually throughout the whole chapter, he's like that dumbass Angelica, which is just actually really funny. But when she like tries to lead the pack, and then I don't know anything about dog psychology, but I've been told that this alpha kind of stuff is BS. So that does it does like hurt the chapter a little bit, unfortunately, just because like you know.
It's so like it's so baked into the way this character thinks,
Yeah.
and so you kind of have to just sidestep that like mentally to enjoy the chapter, but it's like hard to. M says I set that aside for this one though.
Okay, good.
Um, yeah, and that the studies were about dogs in captivity, and like theoretically they have been through this really abused life, so maybe they do have something, but I don't know. I don't think that science is actually like holds up to scrutiny.
Yeah.
Um, it's just not backed up. So yeah, it kind of tinges it, and you know, whatever.
Whatever. We're just gonna ignore that, okay?
Hmm.
Um, so Brutus refers to himself as top dog and Rachel as master. But I'm not gonna call her that because that's gross.
You're
So
gonna say Rachel.
I'm just
Yeah.
gonna call her Rachel. And he mentions that Rachel isn't the leader of her pack, but that he still accepts her. Um, and he can tell that Rachel is hurt from her slow movement and the way that she smells. And Rachel sounds apologetic, which did seem to me like a complicated emotion for a dog to understand. Um, he's like, he's like, Rachel sounds apologetic. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a little bit advanced, but maybe he also like that's something to add is like Rachel and her dogs are very good at communicating with each other. So maybe that's what that
Well, but
is.
he does liken it directly to something, doesn't he? Doesn't he?
Yeah, like when she kicks him at the top of the stairs sometime.
Yeah, and she said that, or he, I guess, said that that was like the touch point. And in this book later on, other characters will be fed memories as touch points for like how they should feel about a thing.
Mhm.
Like, like that happens to Taylor later.
Yeah.
So it
Happens.
sort of feels like a thing.
Yeah, I agree. Um, so she uninvites all but Brutus onto the walk, and Rachel dons a backpack for the walk, but Brutus notes that that's unusual, so he figures that they must be doing an errand. And he was right. And he's so proud of himself. Um, Rachel gives the other dogs treats, but she tells Brutus that the treats that his will be for later. But he can't really comprehend what he is being told here, so he's kind of upset.
Mhm.
So she kind of starts reprimanding him, and um, Brian, I just skipped his name right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brian approaches. He is referred to as the scentless man, which Vale comments, "No aftershave. What happened?" I don't know either. It's funny because they happen in chapters back to back where he smells like aftershave. But I think it's just that he smells like things, but he himself doesn't have a smell, like the way that he can usually smell people's emotions and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I, I know that it's supposed to like mask his scent overall because of when he fights Storm Tiger later. Storm Tiger can't smell him,
Uh-huh.
and he's wearing like his full like costume,
Mhm.
so it's clearly like covering up the like scent of leather from the jacket and stuff.
It could be just like maybe how recently he's used his power or something
Oh yeah, yeah.
that covers it up. Um, which makes sense. He hadn't used it all night until the morning or whatever when he's with Taylor. Um, the natural musk. He doesn't have natural. He doesn't have anything natural, it seems like, but he does put stuff on. Um, so he also kind of refers to him as Rachel's alpha, um, which is
Or
whatever. Farf. I can't believe he's an alpha male. I would really peg him as more of a sigma.
oh my god.
When Brian asks Rachel if she's okay, she responds, "Fucking peachy." Which Brutus understands means she's mad, but apparently Brian doesn't, which is really funny because he's like, "Are you sure?" Um, and he mentions that she was in a bad way from the ABB. Brutus gets annoyed and steps forward to defend Rachel, but she kind of dismisses him and lets him fall back. And Brian tells us that he found when he found Rachel, she was tied to the ceiling by her wrists and had been used as a punching bag. I wasn't sure if that was like literal, like if they'd just been beating her up, or if they were like, let's use her as a punching bag. Maybe it was like
I
a
think
metaphor.
I think it's a metaphor for the way
Okay.
that she was being like low tech tortured.
Okay. I just always assumed that she was being used as a literal punching bag for some reason.
Jesus.
Um, Vale says, "What is a sigma? By the way, if it's easy to explain, I've heard the term, have no clue." Well, sigma jargon's here. I'm just kidding. Uh,
Uh,
a sigma is kind of like an alpha, but they're like the lone wolf archetype, okay? So they see themselves like not as a pack leader, but as a lone wolf, and they think that's cooler than being an alpha. Um,
they think that they're John Wick.
yeah, they think they're real cool because they're independent and don't have emotions. So Rachel looks away in an act of beta-ness and begins to defend herself. Do you want to pull this quote?
Yep. I fucked up. I was bored, restless, figured I'd walk Angelica to see if I could meet you guys where the money was. Someone recognized me and tailed me. I was stupid. I took my licks for it. I'm fine now. We have the money. All is well.
this is obviously sad, but like it's specifically sad because it kind of gives us more insight into her worldview, which is like she feels like she did something wrong and then she was rightfully punished for it, kind of, and then like that now she's like on even ground, so like we don't need to talk about it anymore. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
and it's like a good example of why she feels comfortable like punishing other people because she learned from it and that's what other people are supposed to do too.
Right. Yeah. I
Um,
mean, the lesson when it's her, the lesson is don't fuck with me.
well, yeah, I guess. It's more like you idiots don't know anything about dogs.
That too. Yeah.
Which is what we'll see later. But so Gru's annoyed, but he says he won't get into it and then immediately does. And he's like, "Oh, what if you get recognized again?" But Rachel says she'll fight back harder and sooner. And she's really tense as she challenges Brian, like, "Are you not gonna let me walk my dogs anymore?" But Brian immediately backs off and is like, "No, of course I wouldn't do that," and tells her to be careful and enjoy the walk.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
Brutus roasts Angelica some more for being a bad dog. He's like, every time he's
Oh.
doing something right, he's like, haha, I'm doing this right, unlike Angelica. And she's like not even in the scene anymore.
Hmm. Hmm.
So he makes sure he doesn't pull on the leash, even though Rachel's walking slower than usual. Brutus starts to roast stranger dogs as well as he smells their pee, and he comments on the state of the city a little bit. And he mentions lots of hungry dogs with hungry owners, unlike his old home. But no one was ever hungry, and he was unhappy and neglected. So he's much happier in this situation, seemingly.
Hmm. Hmm.
So Rachel orders Brutus to stay as they are approached by a small
I'm so
child.
Brutus judgier than Taylor.
Honestly, though, he's a savage. Um,
Yeah.
so this kid starts fucking poking him and being annoying, and so he looks. Oh, I forgot to change the art. We'll do that now. Because this is the scene.
This
Like,
is the scene.
huh,
You
huh.
have the speed drop.
I have some of it. So here's my Brutus. Does he look sad enough? I don't draw a lot of animals, so this was a little bit difficult for me.
I think he does look sad enough. He looks sadder than the original image. So
Yeah, I was working on it. And then I did this annoying ass scribbling for like 2 hours.
this is yeah. But I mean, when I was talking about the weird style that I was thinking of, this kind of like fits it because this is
Uh-huh.
how like it would take forever to use colored pencils because you're just going back and
Yeah.
forth, and you have to be like, really careful and like the directionality of every line matters so much to it too.
Yeah, for
Like
for animals especially.
yeah, so I think that M instead of meaning cute definitely meant cutter.
Yeah, I think so. Just
Yeah.
weird typo, Emily.
So weird that you'd like typo after with the correction mark. Um, anyway, sorry, I was just getting wrapped up and staring at the
Yeah, I
artwork.
was watching it too, 'cause here's the the little asshole kid and the inconsiderate mom. I feel kind of bad for them, honestly.
Yeah.
Like even though they're supposed to suck or whatever, like Okay, so I guess that's when I gave up and stopped recording. So wait, zoom.
Okay. Okay.
But here's the final image.
And I think the final image is quite nice.
Thank you. Um, Rachel's like about to lose her shit. So here's the kid being an asshole, tugging on his face and like laughing or whatever. and Brutus is looking to Rachel to make it stop, but she's not reacting. Even when they said that the kid was pulling on his fur, but that didn't make sense to me because I thought he was God, what kind of dog is he?
He's a Rottweiler.
Yeah, they don't have fur, do they? I mean, they do, but you know what I mean.
Hmm.
Short-haired fools. Maybe he's a little scraggly or something. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, she starts tugging on him. And he starts. I lost where I was. Hold on. Oh, he does start to growl, but then Rachel tells him to stop. So
Hmm.
the group is approached by the little kid's mom, who laughs and she's like, "Oh, aren't they so cute?" And Rachel just doesn't say anything. And then I feel kind of bad for her here because she like immediate. I feel like the lady immediately knows that like Rachel's upset and she like tries to de-escalate. And she's like, "Oh, well, kids will be kids," which is a bad way to de-escalate. um,
Yeah.
and Rachel responds, "Watch your fucking kid." Um, and then Brutus knows that fuck means Rachel's mad, so he joins in and starts to growl.
I really like this line here. Uh, Brutus steps forward, ready to growl, to add. Well, this is, wow, way to distract myself. And again. Ah! But Brutus steps forward, ready to growl, to add own voice to hers. I just like how it was worded, I guess.
Yeah, I like it. So as the woman goes to try to pick up her kid, Rachel commands Brutus to guard. And he moves in between the two and he starts growling at the mom. And the woman starts pleading to Rachel. She's like, "Oh, it's just kids being kids. She just thinks all dogs are cuddly and friendly, like she didn't know any better or whatever." But Rachel doesn't back down and she commands Brutus to hold onto the kid's arm in his mouth. Um, and so every time the kid pulls, he holds down a little harder, which, oh my God, I just feel so stressed for this kid because, like, I would have
Mhm.
lost it. But it's all right. Brutus doesn't, like, murder her because she starts crying. So,
Right,
um,
right.
while she's doing this, Rachel starts lecturing the woman, and she says that Brutus had once hurt someone so badly that they needed amputated, which I'm not sure if this is true because it sounded like he wasn't like abused. Well, I mean, neglect is abuse, but you know what I mean. He wasn't like physically abused. He was just like not being taken care of very well. Or was
Mhm.
he like, I don't know, they're kind of unclear on his original home.
Yeah. I don't know because it seems I think you're right that it doesn't line up with what he like thinks about.
Yeah, so she might be lying or talking about like a different dog that she has. Um, So Rachel says that she rescued him before he was put down, and her kid could have gotten maimed or killed. And the woman is like on her knees, like begging and rambling for this to end. But Rachel has Brutus let the crying kid go and departs as she tells her again, "Watch your fucking kid." And then Brutus is a good boy, and he gets some pats and stuff.
Some pats.
Yeah. Yeah, he beat an
Um,
intruder. But like I thought that's what his job was. I thought he was a guard dog.
hmm, hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, like they can just be like, oh, well, he, he's going to be put down for attacking an intruder and biting them so badly they lost a limb. I think at first, or it fits.
Okay. Yeah, that
Um,
makes sense.
okay. Well, to say the other bits, Vale had said the "What's Your Kid" is a big deal to Rachel too, for reasons that will come up later. Em says about this whole interaction, this part scared me. When she said "kill," I was like, oh yeah, I know that word. I was
Yeah,
like,
I
no
think it's
wait,
supposed to stress you out and be like, wait.
yeah, I think it's like an uncomfy part for sure.
So Rachel and Brutus continue their walk until they reach a gross ass smelling place. It isn't really described aside from the smells. He can't even really focus on the conversation that Rachel's having with the man, like on the way in, because he's just smelling the blood and the fear. It smells like scared dogs and stuff. And then they grope him a little bit, which I guess they're like checking that he's a dog. Like, what? Does he have like hidden weapons or anything? Why do they need to check him? Maybe she sold him, you know?
Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe they were like deciding the price to pay or whatever, or like deciding the odds on the fight.
Yeah, yeah, that'll probably be it. So Rachel takes him into a kennel, and there's a crowd cheering as Brutus and another dog are released into the center of the room, and it's like I think it's like a big room, and then it's like a circle surrounded by boxes where the dogs are, right?
Hmm. And
Okay.
like, I think also, did they say there's chain link fence or let me see here. Um, Usually these like little fighting rings have in media have chain link fence. So I'm just gonna.
Yeah, I didn't know if this one did because he seemingly just like pushes over
Oh
some
yeah,
boxes to get to Rachel.
yeah. I think it's just
It's like a
boxes.
really low class fighting ring.
Well, it is run by a real shithead, so.
Yeah. So he's Brutus is like pretty scared because the other dog's bigger than him, but it's all right because Rachel starts transforming Brutus, and he describes it as like a good hurt, like stretching, and he keeps popping and cracking and getting bigger until he is the size of a car. And then the other dog is scared. Um,
This is relatable content for Victoria because she pops and cracks, which
yeah,
allows her to have a transformation.
and then people are very fearful. Um,
Yeah.
And then, so after being prompted a couple times by Rachel, um, Brutus starts breaking the boxes that are in the way between them. And Rachel commands Brutus to guard the door. So he starts like flinging people around to stop them from leaving. He just like will grab them by the arm and like throw them back into the room. And everyone's like running around and flipping out. And then Rachel commands Brutus to attack. So he like gently, conscientiously roughs up the crowd. He's like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to shake people or bite their heads off." So he does have like some sense there. Um, So like people keep like getting up and trying to leave and then he throws them back in and then after a while everyone stops moving. And at that point Rachel commands Brutus she doesn't. Rachel yells no more at the crowd. She's just a man of few words.
Yeah.
Um so she takes a set of keys and then she picks up a kennel with a dog in it and they start loading up the car with dogs. She keeps them in their cages, obviously, and like, it seems like she puts some on top of the car as well, which
Yeah.
I hope they're okay. But
It's very Mitt Romney when he put the dog on top of the car for his
what?
cross country trip.
Oh my God, that's awful. So they go back inside after loading it up, and there's more caged dogs, but those dogs are not moving. And Rachel just hugs Brutus for a very long time as he depowers. When Brutus hears sirens, he signals to Rachel, so like apparently he like looks out for the cops for her.
Yeah,
Um,
he's like 5-0, 5-0.
yeah, exactly. So they get into the car and they start driving, and Brutus gets a treat, and he gets to stick his head out the window as they flee the scene off into the distance.
Yeah. And they save a bunch of dogs. I sort of assume this is where some of the dogs she has
Yeah,
in
I thought
like
it was
Arc
where
7 are
most
from.
of the dogs came from. 'Cause I'm thinking of like a van. She like at least took maybe like 8 dogs or more. It kind of depends on the size of the kennel and the size of the van and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not fully clear, but remember, there's the one dog with the hurt leg that she says was the bait dog for training other fighting dogs.
Oh, yeah.
So that one for sure.
Yeah.
And M says two things. Victoria always popping and cracking bowl of Rice Krispies, that one.
Yeah, I
And then
know.
also, what a good day, good dog day for Brutus. Yeah.
Yeah, you did great today.
hmm and things will just keep going well for Brutus.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll see.
do you have any more things we want to say about this chapter?
I mean, I think it's a good chapter. I mean, I say that after most chapters. Um, I'm not like a huge fan of it because some of it's pretty cringe to read. Like writing the overview for it, trying not to be cringe. That was a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, and like, yeah, it's it works. I'm glad that it hits for so many people, but for me, it's not one of my faves.
Yeah. But when I was rereading it, it's still pretty good. And we get to see some good stuff from Rachel and like how she views the world. And her and Brian's toxic dynamic.
Yeah, barf. It's a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem. We can start in talking about Brian.
Okay, so Brian, he's clearly like got this fatherly persona with Taylor, but when he deals with Rachel, he just like, um, I mean, I guess we haven't seen the stuff that happens in like the next two chapters, but like, he's just always kind of on her about stuff, and he just has no idea how to communicate with her at all, and
Yeah. Well, we've already
constantly
seen
causing
him
problems.
in the scene where she attacks Taylor and he hits her
He,
and
yeah, he
then
punches
says
her.
I hate it when you make me do that.
Yeah,
Which
so
is
it's like
like,
clear he said it
whoa, Brian.
before.
Because if he had just hit her and not said anything, that would have been one thing. But the thing that he says is really what tips the scale.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
woof.
yeah. But he does have like this really caring, like protector thing over Taylor that we get to see. He gets to bond a little bit with Danny.
Yeah, I think he's a real like in group, out group kind of person. Like he even says so later in the book.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's kind of interesting that that's something we can identify, and that I mean, that he also like agrees with that sentiment.
Uh-huh.
Like most people, you would say that about them, and they'd probably say, "No, I'm not like that."
I guess we
So
also learned more from this chapter that I don't know, I feel like this is like, okay, Brian is definitely like somewhat into Taylor because he's just like, I don't know. Is it like problematic for me to be like, "Oh, he lets her rest his head on him." But he does seem just very comfortable with her and like okay with like physical interaction and stuff.
yeah, and he says he has like no experience with women, so it's like not necessarily that he's comfortable for that reason.
Yeah.
Um, so I agree. Yeah, I think that he's just kind of passively into her.
Um yeah, I think that's all I got about Brian.
Yeah. And then Lisa, we kind of, I mean, we see her interaction with the doctor, how tense she is for Taylor getting, potentially having bad consequences, but on the other hand, still getting outraged about being questioned.
Yeah, exactly. We get to see her when she, like, her um, competence is questioned
Yeah,
in like
easy
somewhat
to.
of a fair way. It kind of depends on how long this conversation's been going on.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's totally unclear how long they've been there,
Yeah.
and what tests they've actually run. Um, but I don't know. We get more stuff. Like I think the way she interacts with Taylor in the house is also interesting. She's does such a good job of like um, slow playing and keeping Taylor with them, I guess.
Yeah, and like schmoozing Danny to like kind
Like
of win his affection, and then like she's also inserted herself like more into Taylor's life than she previously was successfully.
that's true. That's true. I was gonna say she usually does big reckless things, but here she's like very conscientious and very measured.
That's true.
So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, she's very successful at like she gets the sort of FaceTime at Taylor's house and stuff. And yeah, we got. I don't have too much more to say about Lisa.
Yeah. Vale said, I really love the creative stretch taken with this chapter and think it was written so well. It made a difference to me first read being patient with some of the early content.
Mm. Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I think I felt. I think when I read I think I had like a turning point like that with the Danny interlude, just the documentary into alternate perspective thing really worked for me in a similar capacity. But I can see that being, obviously a different point for everybody. Just
Yeah.
like how everybody, like a lot of people, the bank robberies the first time they like can't stop, can't put it down, kind of thing.
Oh,
So,
also, something I forgot to mention about Brian is that we now know that, like, to the dogs and to Rachel, like, Brian is her authority figure, um,
right, right,
which, like, gives more context to their relationship and stuff. Um, Even though she doesn't really seem to like it, she still,
yeah.
she still, like, to me, like, seemingly wants to like follow along and do what
She
he
wants
says.
to have like positive social interactions and can't find like a format that works for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh,
Well, we got to learn, well, we didn't really learn a lot about poor Danny except he was like
he speed
more
bakes.
he stress bakes. He is like seemingly like way less cagey than Taylor. Like he just kind of immediately trusts Lisa and Brian based off of their vibes. And like the part where Lisa says something like really out of pocket or whatever, like she brings up like it's upsetting to him that that Taylor will talk to other people but not him. And he's just like, "Oh, you're so smart."
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, Danny like has experience with like friendships, like long-term friendships and positive relationships and stuff. So it just seems like he trusts people a lot more than Taylor does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, and that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it in those terms.
Yeah.
Um, M said when you want to be a sigma, but you're actually a beta.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Poor Rachel.
Um, so on to Rachel. That is kind of her story for the first half of the book.
Yeah.
and she learns to be part of the wolf pack. Um, I don't know. I feel like there always ends up being like a leadership structure in the Undersiders that is like there's clearly a leader like later on, but at the beginning it's murky, and
Uh-huh.
then they kind of settle on like this is kind of spoilery, but kind of not, like that. They kind of settle on Brian, and then they have to like decide, okay, Taylor's actually better at leading us in combat, so
Mhm.
like we're gonna try this out. Um, and then like there's always shared roles from the beginning to end, where like Lisa always kind of makes big calls for the whole group.
Mhm.
Um, because like even if she doesn't directly, she like pulls everybody into whatever it is. Like the bank robbery. Like she made the decision before she told the group that it was going to happen, and then it happened.
Yeah.
So
I do think they do like a kind of I like the kind of varied leadership. Like they kind of all
mhm.
trust each other, so they don't need to take like a firm hand on like no, we're gonna do what I say or whatever. Like they always want uh to work together on stuff, which I
they're
like.
also they're also like pretty much like a democratic group in terms of like they do on like the jobs and stuff direct vote 1-to-1. So
Mhm.
there is no leadership structure with that. It's just like Lisa was able to convince everybody, so they
Yeah.
all voted her way,
Yeah.
um, rather than anything else.
Yeah, rather than her having like more power in the situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Um Rachel. We kind of learn a lot about Rachel this chapter. We learn some more about her worldview. Like she kind of sees Brian as an authority figure over her, and she
Mm-hmm.
cares a lot for not just her dogs, but all dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we get to see like that what I said earlier. She feels um like when she makes a mistake, like she is punished and that evens things out. And so she does that later when the woman and the child, she's really punishing the woman more than the kid, you know. She's trying to make her upset for not taking care of her kid. um,
Right. Yeah.
and she lectures them about like how problematic it is to just approach and start touching other people's dogs because anything could happen. Um, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we get to see her kind of like do a solo job, which we haven't seen anyone do so far. Like she just doesn't give a shit. She could have probably gotten the gang in line for this, to be honest, right? Like if there was money involved.
Right, but she doesn't really. She doesn't care about that, and she doesn't want to be on somebody else's timetable. She just wants to go do this.
Yeah,
It's like to her, it's just not a problem.
yeah. It's like she has like her personal calling or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I don't want to like just totally foreshadow the next two chapters entirely,
Whoa.
but like we will see that there are like consequences to this happening.
Yeah, I remember when I read it the first time, I was surprised that there were consequences to this. Um,
Yeah,
just
I
'cause,
mean, a lot of other stories would just let this be like a side thing, but then, like in this story, it's like, okay, well, for someone to be doing this in this city, they would have to be affiliated with one of the major gangs. You
as
know.
as far as I'm remembering, there haven't really been consequences coming from the interludes yet. Like the Danny chapter, he doesn't really do anything. And then like the Victoria chapter, we haven't seen any fallout from that yet. Um, and then same thing with
Mhm.
what's the next one? Purity?
Yeah,
Yeah, we haven't seen
or
any.
the wards rather.
Yeah, the wards, we haven't seen any fallout from any of these groups, which like spoilies, but like things will all come for things will probably all come back. Um,
Mm.
but like this is the first one where like something happens in an interlude and then like next chapter they're like, "Hey, what the fuck?"
Yeah, and I mean, we'll get much more direct interactions at certain points where, like, a character will be in the same scene as Taylor, and then you see their interlude, and then back to Taylor. So
Yeah.
then it's like a direct, like, swap.
Hmm.
And I mean, I think it adds a lot, and I'm glad that it doesn't, like, just dive right into that, that it's kind of like a treat later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Do you have
so we've
anything
talked
you learned
about
about Brutus?
I learned that Brutus is Doge.
He's the pack leader and he's so much better than Angelica.
Yeah, he's really not hype about Angelica. Um, he doesn't like ever think about Judas. It's weird.
He's just fine with Judas.
Yeah,
Judas does what he's told, but not better than Brutus.
mm-hmm. Of
So,
course, of course. Yeah. I put in the powers section that we learn about like what it feels like to get the power put on you.
to be powered,
M
yeah.
says I learned that Brutus is a good boy. Um, so yeah, I mean there you go.
I mean, according to him, which, like,
Yeah.
I'm sure Angelica thinks she's good too.
Mhm. Yeah, Angelica's like, what's wrong with you? I'm the greatest one.
Yeah.
Each of them is the third strongest mole in this hole. So um, you have faced my brothers, but I am the third most powerful. Um, for the powers, knowledge, and world building, uh, Taylor's power works while she's unconscious. That's pretty interesting. We've seen that she has like um,
Hearing abilities.
say again.
She she was able to use her hearing, which she has not
Oh yeah,
used at all to up to this point.
for sure, yeah. She was able to use the hearing ability. But I was thinking about like how important it is that her power is like able to work um, independent of her. Like the fact that we've seen in other instances how kind of mentally tough she is, and the fact that her power um, hasn't hit like an upper limit for a number of bugs. There's like stuff like that that is more powerful than I would have expected, even when starting the book and like seeing, the kind of story it is.
Hmm. Yeah.
A lot of the powers kind of have like huge upper limits. We've already seen like I feel like Clock Blocker's power, the fact that once he stops something, it's like invaluable. Like that's crazy. So we've already
Yeah.
seen like really high end like things.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
true. And like
uh,
Regent's power, when it punished him for using it too much or misusing it or whatever.
yeah, the fact that it bounced back on him, and like the fact that it could fully like knock him out, and like the strength of that, because we haven't seen thinker headaches yet.
Hmm.
But that'll become really common, like especially because Lisa starts just pushing herself to overdrive all the time, like at a certain point.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we learn about Lisa's power needing correct information, which we talked about a bit. It's I don't know. It feels like most of the time, it feels like her biggest mess ups all come at the start of the story, and then like she gets kind of really good with her power.
Yeah, I think she really improves, and I don't know if she's like described it like she's like playing Sudoku, you know what I mean? Like she didn't have very much information at the beginning, so there's like lots of ways to make mistakes. But as
Mm-hmm.
like things have been like get crazier and crazier, she just has like so much more info, and she's also like consistently around and like fighting people with powers, which gives her more and more info on powers, which helps her understand them better. It just seems like a, I don't
It kind
know.
of like it's like a Katamari of information where like
Yeah.
she's able to roll up more and more because like the fact that she understands how like, oh, this power phase shifts fire in from another reality.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I can also tell that the way this is powered is like siphoning in like extra heat that's runoff from another universe, and it's like, oh, interesting that those are both happening.
Yeah.
Um, and we missed something Greg said, which is a good boy clearly would not lie. So we know that it's the truth when he says he's a good boy.
Well, that is a fallacy. Secret. Katamari ref. Nice. Yeah, it is. She is like Katamariing information all the time.
Oh man, I can imagine because like the prince kind of his expression never changes. So if you're one of the like happy ones, they're like kind of always happy. Well, I guess it depends on the game. Sometimes the prince is a very neutral mask, and I just imagine Lisa with her smile face, always smile running, and like pushing happily, being like way smaller than the information ball.
Yeah. Another thing about Lisa is like, as far as I can tell, her power is gonna work better when Taylor is around or like she's involved with her in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so like that's another thing. It's like she's been getting a power up, and then I feel like at some point soon that she's gonna like get another power up when Taylor becomes very passionate about a project.
Yeah, well, because she's in such direct conflict, like I think that she's also being rewarded for like the grand scale nature of like,
Yeah, that's true as well.
yeah, she's trying to take on like a big opponent. So, um, then I think that it's interesting that there are. I mean, like it makes sense, but
Hmm.
as a story detail, that there are longtime back alley Cape doctors that have been like acting in the shadows for years.
Yeah, they probably
They
get
talk about how he's.
all the
Hmm,
tea. They
yeah,
know who everyone is and secret identities and stuff.
but he keeps it on the DL.
Yeah, he
He's
keeps it on
his
the DL.
reputation is pretty good.
I think that he just knows he would get like really murdered
Yeah,
as
I
well.
think. Yeah, I think that's probably a good motivator. But the problem is when the other side is trying to murder you for the information. If you don't
Got
give
it.
it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, this we'll see this grouchy fellow at least one more time. Um, would you be a back alley doctor? Yes, yes. Why
Yeah.
not?
Okay. I just want to know all the cape things all the time.
Mm-mm. You gotta know. I gotta know.
But some of the
Um,
back alley doctors are like real shady. There's like one uh clinic that they go to later that like while they're being treated, Taylor's like, "Wait a minute. They're white supremacists."
yeah.
But like yeah, they're just as shady as the villains themselves, to be honest.
Um, and then I think moving on from that, you learn how powers feel to the dogs. I just want to directly quote this. Then Brutus feels it. Rachel is making Brutus stronger, and it hurts, but it's a good hurt. Good hurt like when Brutus is stiff and stretches, and joints snap and pop, and Brutus feels better because of it. Only this stretch doesn't stop, and Brutus keeps popping and cracking, and Brutus keeps feeling better, and Brutus gets bigger. Rachel usually takes longer to make Brutus this strong, but Brutus is in room alone with the dog that smells like blood and death, and Rachel must know that Brutus needs to be stronger. Yeah.
Love it. And they just love being big. He's like really
Mhm.
enjoying himself.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think
Um,
that we know that like the first time it happens, the dogs are like, "What the fuck?" and then they freak out a little bit.
yeah, like she talks later about how she like slow rolls it the first time, and then like the first time she really makes them big, she like chains them up so that they can't run around and just smash everything.
Mhm.
So it's a whole thing.
Did you
Um,
do you have a document for this? Or you just keep
uh,
them loose leaf?
well, see, the thing is, I kept like trying to form stuff. And I was going to work on that, but because of the technical difficulties that I had that led to the scramble, I
Mm,
didn't get it together in the way I wanted to. So
mm.
they're in all of the ones that I have are the ones that are in that message thread with you.
Well,
So
I
if you
don't really know how I'm going to do that.
if you click on them and then you click the open original button, it should open a link, or I can just send you the little links, but they're just browser links that will go to the image on like a Chrome or something. And then you can just point the viewer at Chrome, right?
Maybe.
Um, well, let me scrape all the little links and then I'll start sending you the links and we'll get it to work. We're the lo-fi masters.
Mhm.
It's like when I was just picking up and moving around a little thingamajigs for that other one.
Here, I'll pull my favorite one up. My favorite girl. And then you can send me the links. I just need to get the screen shared.
Okay. I will get all but the favorite. But these are just like the rough cuts. So they're going to see the whole set and we're just going to talk about them
Yeah, I think the
because,
whole set is fine.
yeah.
And then everyone can tell us their favorite.
And I'm even sending the little the honorable mentions and everything. I think they deserve their time in the sun. But you guys are gonna get to see a thing.
um,
Okay, so it's over here. So I'll send Atlas last. We're gonna go with what order?
Emily, can
Um,
you guess who this is?
we're gonna go with some low rent ones first. There's gonna be the Armsman one early on.
You guys are gonna have to hear my Discord thing. I'm not gonna turn it off.
Um, then we've got some recognizable faces here. Uh, oh no!
Panacea. Yeah, it's Panacea. I said it is my favorite girl. Look at her. And my favorite that we kind of chose or decided on was the bottom right one,
That's the one I like the
where
best. Yeah,
she's
for
like
sure.
standing there.
Yeah, she's all grumpy. Um, did I don't know? Did this send through? Like I thought it was going to be a link, but then it
It's
was
not,
just
but
like,
it's fine.
yeah. Maybe I can de. Hmm.
I pulled it up. This is Arms Man. Why is he? I guess I see it. It's like the helmet, but the visor
It's
like did not really.
it's the top middle one. And
Oh,
it was not supposed to be him. It was like literally I was fishing for Gru
yeah.
and I couldn't get it to work. So then that just came up organically. Um,
Yeah, M
and
says
then
the vibes are construction worker, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm gonna send the one that Gru is on. He's on the middle right of this one as his Gru self, but then we're gonna see uh, Gru looking into a reflection in his helmet as well, which I think is one of the best ones.
Oh my god. So here's the full set, and then the one that William likes. It's so scary. It looks like he's getting dementored.
I like that it's basically like we had decided he'd be a Shetland, so when he's using his power from within the helmet, you can't see him, and he's just like a blur. But then when
Yeah.
he's just like a normal person staring at the helmet, you can see he's a Shetland.
It's a cute little dog.
And then we've got let's see here. Next we do Tattletail, which I think Tattletail turned out quite well, especially some of the like goofy ones that
Yeah.
like were bad.
And we love Tattletail. This bottom one, bottom left one is actually just great though.
Yeah, it's delightful. And then we have the Regent ones, which some of them are quite scary. Um,
This is not the dog type that I would have gone with at all for Regent. This is a
I thought
very
it was so funny.
This is a very milfy dog in my opinion. It's just like she's got like the black hair with the blonde chunky highlights on top, you know what I mean? These
Yeah,
Emily says
I
these
like
ones are scary, yeah.
I like the middle right one where it has like a long face that has like a tiny like mask face on the bottom half. Like it's haunting. And then like the middle left is like, what am I looking at?
These are and I was saying that these are Rachel's dogs, and then when she leaves, they, go out and do their superhero activities, but William didn't seem on board with that. You were like, no, they're independent.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to do the characters as Doge. In the end, M says, "You're saying Regent's not a MILF, Victoria?"
I am saying that, in fact.
And then Vale says top right is such a fit. I thought that middle, bottom, and or bottom, middle, and bottom right were both really cool. Either of them could be a regent. But here is the next one. We've got our slate of Oni Lees. Oni's Lee, I should say.
Which these people have not seen really much Oni Lee at all, but
he just came out so easily. Like I only needed to type in the search like once, and I got like a good set. So,
Vale says they love every part of this. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. We were inspired by on Emily's
yeah,
stream. We did some Dolly stuff. This was from Dolly Mini, which I think it was just way faster than the other ones because it's, I don't know, like less advanced or something. Here's a Rachel.
I was originally gonna have it be like individual panes, and I was gonna like blow them up like they were, but I just didn't have time to do that, sadly.
Yeah.
But like, there's Rachel, but I want to also show an honorable mention Rachel, which I thought was very funny.
Okay.
And this could be one of the dogs later when they have the side
Oh yeah,
saddle
this is
things.
definitely the dogs carrying the money though.
Yeah. And then let's see here. We have, I sort of saved some really good ones, in my opinion, for last, which is we've got, we've got our set of Glory Girl.
Yeah, Glory Girl turned out really well. These are great. Look how majestic she is. Except the top right. Don't look at that one.
Oh man, there were so many good ones. And then this is a special mention. The crowd doesn't know Atlas yet per se, but Atlas gets to be on here.
Yeah, because Atlas's was perfect. It, it looks just like him.
And then let's see here. We've got. I think the Vista one's amazing, but I'm gonna show it next so that we can watch Gaylor Dead Last.
Okay. What is that? This is Atlas. You haven't met him yet. I love this Vista one because it really looks like Peridot because she's even got the triangle head going on.
Yeah. It's so good. And then finally the ultimate you know her, you love her. Taylor is the middle left on this set.
Well, Taylor is all of these.
She's all of these for sure. But
definitely not the bottom right one. That one's way too cute to be Taylor.
Taylor's the left half.
She looks so good.
Including that like creepy security footage one.
Yeah, I love it. The like glowing eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
Expect these to be posted in Discord. Yeah, you'll have to share these with the class. Bottom right,
yes.
Cussed scene. True. Bottom right is when she's being all cute this chapter. But she'll be better soon. Don't worry. She'll be back to her old self.
Later, she'll be top right, head on a swivel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the lot.
Yeah, these were fun. Thank you for finding them.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it made me realize that like I'm not confident in doing a lot of art, but I do feel like to just get some fun like stuff,
yeah.
I could like make stuff with that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so. I was thinking about like I'll use maybe one of the like real hefty ones, and I could make like a interlude art with one of them. I was thinking, honestly, I was like bone saw interlude, obviously. That bitch is crazy.
I do have like one that I didn't send on Discord because I didn't think that I'd put it in, but it's for one of Bonesaw's creations because it was one of the Amy's, but it was like a blood red thing on the bottom, and then the top was like a nun head, and it had like two faces, one for each like station, as though there were like the body and then the upper half body. Yeah. So. Yeah.
You guys are gonna love Bonesaw, and by you guys I mean Emily.
Mm-hmm.
I love Bonesaw.
Yeah. These are great, and you can get a chibi feel on a lot of stuff, or like a security cam feel. Like I love typing security footage on the end of it. Like Victoria taught me that trick. That's the best way to get some solid creep factor in the AI.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had the audience participation. We need an exact percentage from M as to no. We never came up with an audience participation question for this week, or I did, but I forgot it.
I think you did, but you forgot it.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, the one for next week for the chapters 5.1 and 5.2 are for new readers. Who are you most curious about from the Summer's Rock meeting? And for everyone, what do you think of Brian and Rachel's interaction in 5.2? So, do we have any more to say before I start wrapping it up with the links?
Nope, go ahead.
All right, so the author of the work being discussed can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. The full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com. And there's a fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.org. And yeah, AP question. Do you think Brutus is a good boy? Yes, that's the ultimate question. So thank you, Victoria, for all the help this week, helping all the technical difficulties, like figuring out how we could get this to work.
Yeah, no problem.
It was a lot of fun. Good app.
Oh yeah, here, let me get the outro music going. Ready?
You gotta end the stream, Vic.
Okay.